Welcome to Overeducated and Underemployed. This is the first episode that we taped live, and it was accompanied by a concert. We did the interview, and then he played a show. This is Kody Shade Harrell, somebody who I grew up with his brother. His brother and I turned each other onto a ton of music. Kane Harrell, who he was quite the player himself in his own right, to be honest. But Kody has made a path for himself to do it professionally now. He is the bass player for Cedric Burnside. He works at Luther Dickinson's studio as an assistant producer. It was a real pleasure talking to him. It's a little bit of a shorter interview because we were doing it before a concert. We wanted to get to the show, let him play the show. About 35 minutes. We had a great talk. He put on an amazing show. Definitely catch Cedric Burnside's band this summer. They're on tour. And definitely check out the North Mississippi Hill Country Picnic this weekend in North Mississippi. I'll have linked all the details in the description here. I'll also link the Harrell Brothers CD or EP or whatever you want to call it. It's about 8 songs. It's really great. Kody and Kane playing together. And I'll link Cedric Burnside's Grammy-nominated album that Kody worked on and is touring behind with Cedric right now. Without further ado, here's the live episode. Thanks for listening to Overeducated and Underemployed. We're going to be taping a live episode of the podcast Overeducated and Underemployed right now. Thank y'all for coming out. This is Kody Shade Harrell. Everybody give it up for him.
How y'all doing this evening?
What's the first song that you ever remember loving?
Man, off the top of my head is I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home, Grand Funk Railroad. That was one of our dad's favorite songs. That was one of the ones the classic rock radio was always on, but if that one came on, everything got turned up a little louder for that 9 minutes and something of that song. So yeah, that's probably the earliest that I can think of that I really enjoyed and didn't know why as a kid, but it sounded cool. It was like 2 songs in one or something, and yeah.
So, what age were you? Remember, like the first time you kind of were like conscious of the song?
My best memory that I can remember, it was like a Halloween, and we were at the house, and I was probably 7, 6 or 7, 8, something like that, somewhere around 7, I would assume.
And when was the first time you picked up guitar?
Whenever I was a kid. Kane played guitar whenever I was a kid, and so he had like a Harmony, I guess it was like a Strat copy or something, but it was like a Harmony Sunburst guitar that I messed with and tried to learn, and it was around that time because I was in elementary school, and the talent show, I decided to try to play guitar for the talent show, and in my elementary school, and played Voodoo Child, Jimi Hendrix.
Hell yeah.
And I played that beginning dun and just played that on repeat for like 2 minutes until everybody was like telling me to get off stage so that the girl could do gymnastics next. But yeah, I don't know, sometime in elementary school, like 3rd grade or something maybe. So, but I didn't stick with it. I dropped it not long after that, and I've played a ton of attempted to play other instruments over the years after that, and then I picked guitar back up. High school a little, and then really in college. So like 18, 19 time frame.
And you're how old now?
33.
You're 33. So you've been playing, I guess, for about 15 years, if that sounds...
Yeah, I guess so. My first live gig was when was that? Was that 2015 or something? Whenever I went with the Burnsides. But before that, I've been playing for several years, just trying to learn and stuff. So yeah, like playing guitar in my bedroom and stuff, yeah, 15 years or something.
About 15 years ago. So full disclosure, I grew up with your brother. I've known your brother for 25 years probably at this point. Mm-hmm. And I have a memory of him and I in like 2005 hanging out in my bedroom, just listening to the North Mississippi All-Stars Hill Country Review, the Live at Bonnaroo record. And he's playing guitar, and I'm singing along. And, I mean, and they were our heroes, you know what I mean? And now, like, you've shared the stage with them. You work with Luther on a regular basis. You you're a part of the insider now. What is it like to go from being like a fan like that? Because I mean, I know we loved their music growing up. And then now you get to play it with them. What is that like for you?
I don't know. I mean, I could use any cliche word like surreal or whatever, but it is really interesting to go from the front of the stage to being on the stage or being side stage or something. And I wouldn't have expected it because it's the North Mississippi All Stars and they're all over the world all the time and they've been hitting it since the 90s and they do their thing, and I'm a fan, and that's just the way that it is. But I kind of weaseled my way in and made friends with Luther and Kody, and it is wild to think about that a handful of years ago, I was just like watching them on YouTube and trying to learn their licks and stuff, and now I have like time with Luther whenever I help on shows or when we're traveling or something to sit and him play guitar with me, or have me play guitar and then point at me and be like, nope. No, that wasn't it. Here, let me show you. And, set me straight. But especially at this point, as a musician, that is such a dream come true to me, to have that opportunity, because it's super special that not everybody gets. And I'm just, like, super appreciative, because people talk about don't meet your heroes because you may not like them or whatever that phrase is, but I'm glad that I met my heroes there because they have been super awesome dudes and taking me under their wing and help me out. And it's a partnership because like I do help for them and they help me out. So
they're not doing charity work.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, not when it comes to their recording sessions, at least. I mean, I know they actually do a lot of charity work, but so let's zoom back a little bit and in kind of like a similar fashion. What was it like? What was the catalyst for you to switch from being just a music fan as a kid to and dabbling in guitar, growing up, to really like committing at like 18, 19 to taking it seriously, starting to play live, and then that sort of thing? What was kind of the thing that switched in your head?
I'm trying to think because it's kind of a long-ish timeline that goes over several years, but I liked guitar music, and I liked all the guitar that's on classic rock radio, and then as I learned about like North Mississippi hill country music and how guitar riff driven the music is and how you feel it, like all of that, you feel it, that really pulled me into the music itself. But I was kind of trying to learn guitar just as the hobby, and like maybe one day like I'll play with some folks and like piddle around and make some music. But I was on like a trajectory like college and career and like corporate world and stuff. So I thought that like, well, I got to have a life outside of that. And I love music and I love guitar and I like to play guitar. So like I'll work during the day and then I'll like play a little music in the evening and that'll be fine. But so that's the kind of way that I went for a while. But then once I got out of college and got into the working world, I worked in manufacturing plants and stuff doing like improvement work. And got into that and quickly realized, like, man, this is the next 40 years. Cool. This is, all right, this is it then. And felt that way for a while and started realizing more and more, like, I'm working, and it's just work, and I'm good at it, and it's good and cool, and I'm making money and all that stuff. But whenever I got home and played the guitar, I was like, man, but this is fun. Like, this is good, and this is fun, and this is what I love. And the music that I love, the people making the music make it work. Like, they do it professionally for a living, just like I'm working in these factories for a living. Maybe, just maybe, if I set myself right, I can try and, like, save as much money from my job as possible and build up some type of, like, nest egg that I can end up leaving that and like jumping into music full time if the opportunity ever presented itself, or if I ever got good enough to actually do it. So this was, I don't know, before the pandemic I was feeling that way. And I'd been playing stuff around that time. I'd been getting stage time and playing with like all my heroes and all the Burnsides and Kimbroughs and everybody in that North Mississippi community. So I already had like my toe in the water and was pretty hooked on it. And then during the pandemic, everything that happened there happened, and I ended up thinking like, man, maybe now is the time. Maybe now is the time to just jump and try it. So that's what I did. It was like on a whim a little bit. At that point, it was part of my plan, but I didn't know when to pull the trigger, and that was when I did, which is like a weird time to do it in the middle of the pandemic when nobody's talking without a mask on and everybody's washing hands and like nobody's wanting to go out in public and stuff. Like, what a time to try to jump into live music. But I don't know. I'm rambling about it because it's hard to like piece it all together, but that's kind of the flow of how that happened.
Yeah. So you've played with your brother for a long time, like since you were, I mean, obviously since you were kids, but I mean out in the world, like y'all play together as a band and in bands together. How did that start as being like something that you were going to be like, okay, we're going to let's do this outside of our living room and maybe even in somebody else's?
Yeah. Kane and I never really played a lot together until recent years. And kind of like Piddle and stuff, like whenever I was a kid, I think you tried to show me some stuff. You showed me Voodoo Child and stuff like that. But in recent years, whenever I've been in bands or played with folks and stuff, I knew that I wanted to have a band. So I got with a buddy of mine, Connor. We were already playing together, and we started a band called Proud Hound. And we were going to do it as like a trio, like 2 guitars and drums with this bass thing that I have set up that I use tonight. But Kane was living down here in Florida and then up in Wisconsin, and then he moved back to Mississippi. And I don't remember if it was around the time of starting Proud Hound or if it was like just before or something. But it just worked out to where we were like, man, Kane plays. Kane's good. We could use a bass player. That would be really cool. And he wants to play, and he's in the area, so let's do it. And so we did. He just like jumped in, and we all started playing. And I don't know, it's fun playing with him and having obviously like the familial connection and stuff, like the brother thing is fun. And beyond Proud Hound, we did like the Harrell Brothers, and we do that, which we've got some CDs over there, Harrell Brothers things that Kane and I cut. So we've done that, and we do that here and there. And it just, I don't know, we have like similar tastes in music. We've got some differences in taste, but we have so many similarities that it's easy to fall in and like play together and stuff. So it just kind of makes sense to do at this point.
What was some of the music obviously like you love the blues, but growing up, was it always just like blues music for you, or what was kind of the pathway there?
Oh, man, I was a big Britney Spears fan. No. It was classic rock radio. Like, my parents always had a stereo on, or in the car, it was always playing, 96.1 The Rocket, and later Z95.3 and stuff. But it was always classic rock stuff, and that's what I liked. And that's really all that I listened to, because that's all that I had to listen to on the stereo. But then Kane, as he got older, was getting CDs and had his stereo, and we shared a room. And so he was playing stuff through the 90s and like early 2000s and stuff that was all rock realm of stuff. And I really didn't get into the blues until outside of, like Stevie Ray Vaughan and stuff like that. I didn't get into like blues or country blues or anything until I guess it was high school time frame. Had a teacher, a mythology teacher. He taught several things, but I took mythology from him, and we got to talking about Robert Johnson and the Crossroads and stuff. And he had the whole Robert Johnson discography on CD. And I don't remember how I like expressed interest, but he said that I'll send these CDs home with you, and you can listen through them and bring them back. So that I did, and like man, listening to those Robert Johnson tracks and hearing that style of music versus all the classic rock stuff that I heard. That really piqued my interest. So I really started out trying to play Delta blues, trying to play like Robert Johnson stuff. And then from that, it morphed more towards the hill country. And honestly, like that was high school time frame, the Robert Johnson stuff and all those country blues pickers. And then I went to Oxford, Mississippi for college. And Oxford is like the epicenter of hill country. Proud Larry's is there, and it's an institution for the Burnsides and everybody. And got up there and would see like, Cedric Burnside at Proud Larry's, or Dwayne Burnside here, Gary Burnside there, and then the North Mississippi All-Stars at Proud Larry's or at the Lyric, and like this whole community of music is up there. And I knew about the North Mississippi All-Stars because our dad used to take us to Pensacola Spring Fest, and we saw the All-Stars there one year. And I was too young to really remember. I remember seeing them, but I honestly don't remember a lot about the music or anything. But I guess, Kane, you may have got a CD there, or afterwards got a CD, so I heard that at the house. So once I got to Oxford and saw that name, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that, that group from my childhood. So I'll go see them. And then going down that rabbit hole and learning about the Burnside family tree and the Kimbrough family tree and how they were all in Holly Springs and stuff not far from Oxford, that just wrapped me up into it. And that's kind of the progression.
Do you remember like the first concert that you went to as a kid?
First ever concert?
The first one that really stuck with you?
It would be Springfest. It would be Pensacola Springfest. And I guess that would have been around 2001 or something like that, 2002 or something. Because I remember one year they put it in the like Coliseum or something, and then the next year it was like taking it back to the streets. But it was the year or two before it went to the Coliseum, so it was 2002 or something. And I remember seeing like Willie Nelson. We went up to the front. Daddy and Kane like pushed us up to the very front, and I got right up on the rail, and Willie Nelson like winked and waved. And then we saw like the Black Crowes and Foreigner and Eddie Money and like all these people that I heard on the radio. So that's probably like my most standout initial first concert experience, was that seeing all the people that I heard on the radio. It's kind of weird as a kid. Like they looked different than they sounded.
Do you want to tell me about the North Mississippi Hill Country Picnic and how that led to some of the connections that you have and just all about what it is to the listeners? And
yeah, so every year, the last weekend in June in North Mississippi, there's an event called the North Mississippi Hill Country Picnic, and it's put on by Kenny and Sarah Brown, and Kenny Brown was a guitar player for R.L. Burnside since way back. So they throw the festival, and it's obviously hill country focused, so like it's kind of like a community or family reunion for that music. You'll catch all the Burnside family, the Kimbroughs, North Mississippi All-Stars, Kenny Brown, and all of their like fringe musicians in the scene, including like Alvin Youngblood Hart, Jimbo Mathis, folks like that. But it's like the showcase for North Mississippi Hill Country Blues, in my opinion. And it happens every June, the last weekend, and it takes place out literally in the hill country. It's out between Oxford and Holly Springs, Mississippi, in kind of like a dead zone where like phones don't work well, and if you don't have like a front-wheel drive car or like a four-wheel drive and it rains, you may have to get pulled out with a tractor. And it's awesome. It's all home done. There's sponsors and stuff, but it's like all done by hand. It's all like grassroots, and they've been going since I think 2006. But it's a Friday and it's a Saturday festival with camping and everything. I think this year they have like 2 stages, but it is like the who's who of that style of blues, and anybody around that community is like, that is the thing to go to. It is hot. It is very hot. It is Mississippi Hill Country in summertime. So it's like you need an umbrella or even an umbrella hat or a tent. You can take one of those canopy tents, and people, the trick is like to take Pedialyte. A lot of people take Pedialyte and drink it in that heat. Keeps them going. But yeah, it's super awesome. It is a super awesome festival. I can't recommend it enough for blues lovers to go and make that pilgrimage to North Mississippi and experience that. It is something like, it may not be for everybody because of the environment, but it is so hill country blues. Like the entire experience is the music. And I mean that in every way, from the weather to everything. But, so yeah.
Wayfair's Labor Day clearance is here. Right now, score up to 70% off everything home, plus fast shipping on everything right to your door. Shop now through September 2nd at wayfair.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
There's that, and I went for a couple years, but I knew that I wanted to like get into the community, and I wanted to play the music, and I wanted to be part of it. Like it was kind of pulled to it. So I weaseled my way in with the picnic and tried to help just as a volunteer, just as a hand to do whatever was needed. And one year I helped with the raffle. They do a raffle every year with some really awesome pieces from local artists and artists all over the country, sometimes all over the world. People will send donations in for their raffle. So I helped with that one year, and then I managed that one year, and like just tried to get in and get to know people and let them know that I'm a good helpful person in the community. I care about the music and I care about making things be what they're supposed to be, and just met everybody in the community through that, and would hang out with them because the backstage area is kind of like a big party for everybody to like reconnect, because they may not have seen each other in a year because everybody's on the road or whatever. And so it's great to be able to just sit back at a picnic table in the back and hear Kenny Brown and R.L. Boyce talking about who knows what kind of moonshine they had or something. It's just a very cool place to like soak that in, and then also meet the folks one-on-one and like let them know like who I am and stuff, and just like I said earlier, like weasel my way in.
I mean, like I said earlier, I don't think that they're out there like just, you're not like a Make-A-Wish case or
right,
anything.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
I would definitely say that there's like, in a way, there's like I guess a cutting floor or whatever you'd call it. Like people will play in the community, but people do filter in and out because it's not everybody's thing. But I felt and definitely am validated in it at this point that like it is my thing.
Well,
like I love it.
And part of I know this might be a little bit like bittersweet because you're going to be missing the picnic this year.
Yeah.
Because you'll be on the road with Cedric Burnside.
Yep.
And so what was that, that process like, joining his band, and did it just start with like a few gigs here and there, or did he approach you, or?
Man, it came through playing some gigs with him. I was in his uncle, well, both of his uncles, two of his uncles, Dwayne Burnside and Gary Burnside's bands. I played with them off and on. Those were some of my first gigs, was with them on stage. And I just played, second guitar with them and tried to hang in there with them, and did. And then, met Luther Dickinson from the All-Stars later on and was communal with these guys. But these gigs, sometimes Cedric would be on drums for Gary. Like, we played at Proud Larry's one night, and I just knew that I was coming to play a Gary Burnside show. And you never really know who will be on stage or how many people will be on stage or anything. But we got up there, and then, in walks Cedric in a nice shirt and stuff. And he's like, "Hey, man, how's it going?" And, hops behind the drums and, man, goes at it, beats the fire out of them. And we just had some run-ins like that. We never really sat down one-on-one and chatted or anything, but we would talk on the stage and man, that was awesome. Hey, good guitar playing. Man, those feels, that kind of stuff. But just hanging around the scene and seeing him more and more, we got more and more familiar with each other. And then he was cutting the album that came out last year, Hill Country Love, which was nominated for the Grammy. And he was cutting that at a place that was going to be his juke joint in Ripley, Mississippi. And Luther Dickinson was producing it and played bass on it and stuff. And Luther called me the day before and was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to be in Ripley with Cedric doing some stuff. You want to ride over and hang?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll come over and hang. What's up?" And he's like, "Oh, just a recording session, no big deal." And show up, and Cedric's like, "Yeah, man, this is going to be my new album. I'm going to be putting it out in a couple years, and or next year. And so we're just cutting all the tracks for it and stuff. So you're welcome to hang out." So I did, and just soaked in that experience of watching Cedric Burnside and Artemis LaShore, who played a junior's juke joint. He's been in the scene for a long time on drums, and then Luther on bass, and then sometimes some guitar stuff. But just sitting back and watching that, I was like, man, this is awesome. And then they take a break, and Luther and Cedric sit down, and they're like, "Man, you got to figure this out. Whenever this album comes out, I need to tour it. And I'm going to need a bass player because this is my first album with a bass on it." And Luther's like, "Hey, man, Kody Harrell over here, he plays bass. He plays with Eric Deaton. He plays with us. There's your guy." And I was like, "Oh, no, man, I appreciate you sticking your neck out like that, but, whatever. It's cool. I appreciate that. Thank you." But Cedric was like, "Yeah, man, I know you can play because we've played, and I've seen what you do on guitar. I know what you could do on bass. And, when this comes out, let's talk." And that's kind of how it happened. And then, time went by where the album was being mixed and mastered and ready to go and everything and release. And Cedric called me at the beginning of 2024 and was like, "Hey, man, it's time to go. Are you ready?" And I was like, "Let me get some stuff in line, but yeah, I'm ready." And I called him like the next day, and I was like, all right, let's rehearse. Like, I'm ready to go whenever. Send me the music. And it was off to the races from there. And we did, I'll go past your question a little bit, but we did 3 rehearsals in his back room at his house up in Ashland, Mississippi. And after the very first one, he was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be good. And we did 3 rehearsals and then hit the road on April 17th and was out more than home. Like from April 17th to the end of July, I think that I counted that I was home for like a total of 11 days. So 3 rehearsals and then bam, just hit it hard. We opened for J.J. Gray and Mofro in like amphitheaters. And I went from playing at Proud Larry's for like upwards of 100 to 200 people to playing these amphitheaters, opening for J.J. Gray with like thousands of people, like a sea of people. I was like, is this real?
Well, and not only that, but touring that intensely was new to you too, right?
Absolutely. I'd never done more than like, I toured with Kody Dickinson back in 2019 and Todd Nance from Widespread Panic, and we did like, I don't know, 2 weeks of a tour. We had like a 9 or 10 show run, so that was the longest that I'd ever been on the road outside of like weekend runs with All-Stars and helping the All-Stars and stuff like that. So yeah, we were out for like, I don't know, 3 weeks the very first time, and then I came home for like 2 days and then went back out for an entire month. From May to May, we left North Mississippi and went down through Texas, up through California, up into California, through the Midwest, and came back home. Yeah, it was crazy to go from like being a homebody to not being home at all.
So when I had J. Roddy Walston on here, he and I talked about how the road kills people. And he said sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's years. How have you made a conscious effort to stay healthy and keep your head in a good space when you go on the road?
Man, it's really easy with Cedric because he's such a like positive guy, and he's always about uplifting and like positivity and staying away from negatives. Even if there is a negative thing that happens in the day, like you can acknowledge it, but then like move on from it or find the silver lining and continue. So it's really easy traveling with him because of his spirit and his energy and everything is so positive that like the bad days aren't really that bad. And health-wise, as far as food, I haven't figured that out yet. Like, man, when venues offer catering and there's like this awesome food and stuff, like I could have the salad, I could. But I don't want to. I want to have the big, meat and 3 and then the dessert and the cake and everything else. Like, that's good. That's good stuff. So I try to rationalize it by walking every day. Like, between sound check and the show, I get out and walk a whole bunch. I know that doesn't work off the bowl of ice cream, but to me it does. So.
What are some of your favorite places that you've gotten to see on tour?
Man, one place, domestically and internationally, I've got a couple. But one of them is the Fillmore West out in California. We got to play there in December, opening for Samantha Fish, and that was awesome just to know the musicians that passed through there back in the day, over the decades and stuff, like the history of that room and the history of music that has gone through that room. That was really awesome. I got to leave the country for the first time with Cedric. We hopped up into Canada, to Victoria, Canada. I think that's the one that's out like kind of on an island or something, and we had to take a ferry to get there through a bunch of straits, and that was super cool to see. So there was that, but then we went through Europe last year. I never, like I said, Canada was my first time out of the country, but we went to Europe for like 3 weeks, and I can't even pick any one thing over there because everything was so awesome. Like the first place that we landed and played was a promenade from, I don't know what it was, the 1100s or something. There was a big statue of the Sun King out in the middle of the promenade. And I was like, man, everything over here is so much older than anything that I can ever see back home, ever. And even, in Mississippi, there were civilizations and stuff, but they didn't build stuff out of stone. It was all sticks and stuff, like mud and sticks and earthly things that didn't stand the test of time. So even though there were people in Mississippi forever, they didn't have any monuments left like in Europe with like the castles and the like all that history, all the cities that were built so many hundreds of years ago that never imagined that they would have vehicles or any kind of wide traffic, so the streets are like super tiny and everything. Like just seeing all that, and no grids. It was like buildings and streets are just like wherever they are because that's just where they put them, where they had the room. And that's, I don't know, all that was really really cool to
Welcome
me.
to Tallahassee. Yeah, Tallahassee, I feel like when they never widen the roads, it's definitely not on a grid. So, maybe this will make you... You're about to be going back to Europe. You're going to be in London, at least, for which blues festival was it, remind me?
I think it's the Ealing Blues Festival.
Right,
It's around London, at the end of July. We've got a Midwest run, a Midwest tour in like mid-July, and then have a few days off, and then we go over to London. So,
are you? Did you go to London last time?
No, we stayed east of there. We were in France for a couple shows, Spain for several shows, Italy, Netherlands, Austria, Belgium. Oh, that is one that I will name, like, cool places to have been. We went to a place called Dixmude in Belgium, and it was like a World War town, like, where tanks and stuff rolled down the cities and buildings were destroyed and, like, half destroyed. So I went through an archive of photos on my phone while I was there and found a bunch of pictures of buildings from the World War with, like, tanks in front of them. And I went and found the exact same buildings and took the same pictures from the exact same perspective of those pictures with a tank in front of it, and now there's like a Volkswagen in front of it or whatever, and that was really, really cool to me.
You obviously, not just in music then, but have a strong interest in like history and like preserving things from cultural importance from the past. What do you think, or how does your brain kind of approach playing a more traditional blues song versus when you're writing your own music?
Let me see. So writing my own music, I will very quickly say it is always difficult for me to write a song that I feel like, if I have tried in the past to write in like the hill country genre, I guess if you would say, and try to force it that way, and I've found that is not the way to go, because it just doesn't work out for me. And then whenever I do write stuff that I think that, that I want to write and I want to put out, by the time that it's done, it doesn't necessarily sound hill country. Like tonight, you'll hear some of my originals are very pretty. And that's the thing, like, I love gritty blues. Like, that R.L. Burnside stuff was so just, like, raw and gritty and, like, in your face. And then I write music that's, like, pretty and melodic and stuff. So I found, like, trying to write in a specific way, obviously, is not the right way to do it. And I've struggled writing music because I can, like, learn and play any of the hill country songs. I love those. And I would love to write some to, like, provide to the repertoire of the community. But here more recently, I've been just trying to write, just purely write, and just, like, whatever comes out. And that actually, as I've been doing that, I think has resulted in more hill country sounding songs. And I'm wondering if it's just the natural, like, not trying to force it and not trying to push it, but just letting it come out naturally and let the influences and the inspirations and stuff kind of flow through it and have no preconceived notions of what it should sound like until it's written. And then it kind of, it piques my interests better, but it feels like it fits what I'm trying to do better without being just a pretty song. It's my spin on what the community does in a way,
And I think everybody here is getting anxious to hear some of these songs. So we're gonna wrap this up here in just a couple of minutes. But I wanna know, how much of yourself do you put into your songs lyrically, and how much of it is more just observational or something like that?
It's definitely not 100% me. Some of the songs that I've written have been things that are more observational or more of what I would want to hear, whether or not it's true to me or not. It, like, makes me feel like it's something I would like to hear somebody do. But oh man, I'm losing my answer here. Like, refresh me on what that question was.
Well, I'm just curious, how much lyrically do you put, like, personal stuff into your songs versus more just thoughts and observations? I mean, are they
okay?
If you're writing a love song, is it something that's you're really, like, resonant, that you're feeling, or that's resonating with you, or how much of yourself are you putting into that versus?
I am pretty reserved. I'm more and more chatty as I get older, but I've always said that I'm introverted, and I definitely feel like in music and writing I'm introverted. Like, I don't want to lay too much out there for people to see. But that is something that I've been working on more in the past couple years, because that's what resonates with people. Like, the real shit is what people feel, because they go through the real stuff too, you know? Like, so trying to forcing something to write something like, yeah, they'll really like that. Like, yeah, maybe some people will like get off on it and be like, yeah, that's a cool song. But the people that really soak it in and connect with it and like it are, you know, they feel the same things that are written in it. So I'm trying to work on that and put more of myself in it without showing too much. Cedric really helps with that, because if you listen to Cedric Burnside's music, every one of his songs, none of them are forced, none of them are what he thinks people want to hear. Every one of them is so true and authentically him. And so many of his songs are from real experiences that he had. Like the song We Made It is all about, like, didn't have a toilet, didn't have a bathtub, walked 3 miles every day to have water in the house for another day. Like, he really did carry buckets up and down the road with water to take to and from his house, and like took baths in a wash pot in his house, like in his yard and stuff. And he puts that in his songs because that is the real hill country. Like, he is hill country to the bone, and that's the real stuff. And that's why people love his music, because it's so real and they do connect to it. And it's not forced, and it's not like what people want to hear. So I'm really trying to, you know, take notes from his playbook and write more like that. But it's so hard to open up. You know, it's a work in progress.
Well, it sounds like you've been starting to like recognize the benefits of doing that in your own songwriting, and I just really appreciate you opening up to all of us tonight, and we're excited to hear your music. Is there anything that you want to like make sure people check out that you've got going on? I know you're on tour with Cedric right now. You've got his record is still doing really well. What else you got going on?
So yeah, playing with Cedric out and about. You can see all of his dates on his website. I do a lot of, like, tonight, playing solo, doing solo shows in between. So I've got a lot of shows with that coming up. And I've also got a buddy who's a drummer, and we've played in the past with the Harrell brothers, but we're going to kick things up a little bit more from solo and have a band set and try to get out into clubs and stuff. So there will be more of that coming down the pipeline, some of those more energetic club shows, and like that should be a lot of fun. So those are kind of like my primaries for me personally. So yeah, keep an eye out for that stuff. And to find that stuff, I'm on all the social medias and bands in town and stuff like that, but I have a link tree where like all of my links are found. So if you want to stream, or if you want to look at dates, or if you want to look at whatever is going on, I think it's Linktree /Kody Shade Harrell. And you can see all my dates and stuff there.
I'll make sure there's links to all that in the description of the
Sweet.
episode, too. Well, thanks a lot for being here, Kody. I'm excited to hear you play. Let's get this show on the road, y'all. Let's give it up for Kody one more time, y'all.
Yeah, thank y'all.
And thank y'all for being here for the first live taping of Overeducated and Underemployed. Well, that was the first episode that we taped live of Overeducated and Underemployed. I will have all the available links to catch Kody's music in the description, as well as information about the North Mississippi Hill Country Picnic, that if you're listening to this the week it came out, is this weekend and happens every year. Check it out. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Click that subscribe button. And if you feel so inclined, there's a donate button on most platforms and on our website. It's what funds some of the expenses for these interviews and the travel that I do to make some of the interviews happen, especially Athens, Georgia. We've got some great episodes coming your way. I sat down with Valor Trucks, who actually taught Kody guitar at one point, Jonathan Spencer, Laura Slade Wiggins, Kane Stanley, Francis Thrasher, Jen Bryant, and Mike White. So some really cool stories coming your way. Click the subscribe button. Donate if you're in a position to, so I can keep these stories coming. And thank you so much for listening.